So I'm here with Carol Thomas, the newly appointed Principal and Chief Exec of Coventry College. Good to see you today, Carol, and thanks so much for your time.
You're welcome. You too, Drew.
It feels like quite a lot, or such a long time ago, that we first had a discussion about Coventry College and the opportunity to become its Principal and Chief Executive. And so much has happened since April. You left Newcastle and Stafford Colleges group, went through a completely remote and virtual interview and selection process, and I believe may well be the first FE principal to have been appointed in this way. So I would like to spend a few moments with you now, Carol, exploring this with you and gain some insight into what it's like taking on a chief executive role in such a different time. So the big question is, you went through a challenging recruitment process during a national lockdown. How did you ultimately know you were making the right decision? And what advice would you give other candidates considering taking a top job during a global pandemic? Big question.
Good question. Yeah. Well, I wanted to be remembered for something. I don't know whether it was being the first principal appointed in a pandemic, but still. You know, it's a bit surreal, really. The whole experience, I think, was surreal, and I think I was riding high on the, NSCG, first college for outstanding, first merged college. We were in a fantastic place. I suppose I'd achieved everything that I'd set out to achieve for the group. And thought, maybe one day I'll move on, but there was no sort of immediate looking or seeking out another job. I was going around to different conferences and visiting colleges and talking about the journey to outstanding, and all that was amazing. And then we went into lockdown, and we sort of remained open, but we sort of rotated in, so we were only in work sort of a couple of days a week. And I think that almost started, and I don't know how other people feel about this, it started for me almost that detachment from the organisation.
Okay.
Because I wasn't there every day working every hour, God said, like you normally are. And it was just almost this detachment. And I've seen an email from yourself, which I always try to reply to, recruitment agencies, because I think you get a tough job, and to just ignore them is not very good. So
well, there's a lesson to everyone. There's a lesson there to everyone. Yes or no, it's simple.
Yeah, and I've not done it. I thought, oh, I'll do that when I get a chance. And then you reminded me again, sent me another one. I thought I really probably should look at this. And then I don't know, I suppose in a quiet moment, I was just having a look and thinking, Coventry College, I know where it is, of course, but never been there. Don't know anything about it. Dropped a colleague of mine an email and said, do you know anything about Coventry College? And at the time, although elitist words now, it said, well, they've always appeared to be cash rich, which is something you look for in the sector nowadays. And so I've started to do a little bit of digging and trying to find out about the college, and thought, lots of the issues that I'm reading about are probably things that I could help the college with, and, I've got evidence of success with. I think I then had a conversation with yourself and asked about having a chat to the chair, because I think the biggest difference is, under normal circumstances, I would have just had a drive to that college.
Yeah, sure.
And had a wander around, get a feel, just listen to students talking, you just get a whole sense of how a college operates, I think, just by being sort of a mystery shopper. So there wasn't an opportunity to do that. So I thought the next best thing is to ask the chair, what does she feel? What does she feel when she walks into the college? What does that, give her a sense of, really? And I've been talking to groups about this and for the AOC Governors and Clerks Conference, and because one of the questions Ofsted asked, of course, is, what's it like to be a student at this college? And a lot of governors had said to me, I wouldn't be able to answer that question. So I thought it was an interesting question to ask, and the right person would be the chair. So that was an interesting conversation, and she was very honest, and about her own aspirations for the college. And I suppose it just seemed like a natural progression. It just sort of all escalated from there. I never once thought, crikey, what am I doing? Clearly my principal where I was working knew about it and was, oh, crikey, really excited, fought for me, and said, well, any help we can give you, and you'll be amazing, it'll be a fantastic opportunity. So they were really sort of behind me. And I think going into that whole interview process was probably more daunting than just going for an interview where you would go for 2 days. Or if you're lucky enough to get past the day one. because I think you're geared up for it. You go for the day or the 2 days, you meet everybody else that's up for the interview. Whereas this was sort of spaced out a bit, really, almost across a 2-week period.
Yeah.
So you never got to meet anybody else. You didn't know who else was in the running for the job. And although there was longer to sort of prepare for things, it seemed to elongate the whole process, which was probably more nerve-wracking. I thought it was interesting, sort of setting up for the interviews, you know, with my iPad on the ironing board, with the fantastic backdrop I've got anyway, with this mountain view in the office. But I was all dressed up with my slippers on, and that's, you know, that's a so
And we were interviewing with our slippers on too, Carol.
Yeah.
So,
so you know, it's quite funny, really, and I think it's hard because I've since interviewed people myself on Teams, and I now insist that people come into the college because I don't get a sense of what people are and how people feel, and you know, I sort of like to see the whites of people's eye. I like to get a feel for them in the same room, and so I think for a governing body it must have been quite difficult. It's probably a bit easier if you are somebody from a teaching background and you're more outgoing, or you're used to presenting and you can give a bit more of your personality. But when I'm interviewing people that aren't in that role, I find it really difficult for them to engage through the Teams process. You know, they tend to look down or read notes, or they don't really engage. And so I think it is a really, really difficult process. So if I could give anybody a hint or a tip, is to really try and show your personality and almost forget that there is this screen in front of you and that you are talking to the actual people. And that's, you know, easier said than done, really. It's, you know, it's quite a tough thing to do, I think, for some people.
I think you're absolutely right. Then we try to encourage candidates to use the camera, you know, in the absence of being able to look people in the eye. It is sometimes about looking directly at the camera and speaking to it as if it were the panel or the person asking the question, and being slightly more elaborate than they might usually be. Yeah, absolutely.
I think you have, and I think people's sort of comfort blanket is, oh well, you know, I'm sitting at home, I can have some notes here, I can look at it. But actually, the last thing people want to do is to see you talking and just reading from your notes, and you wouldn't have those in front of you going for the interview. So I think you need to really put yourself into interview mode and prepare for it, just as you would if you were, you know, going onto the college site and meeting the team face to face. So
thank you. So now in the role of Principal and Chief Exec for a few months, and as a first-time CEO, tell us about the process you've had to go through to know what you need to know in order to prioritise your plan of action.
Oh, crikey. I mean, it's I don't think you are ever prepared for that role. And I think there are lots of things that would impact on that. I think, if you are walking into a really well-oiled machine or a really good senior leadership team, strong leadership team, then I think you would have less of a problem, less of an issue, because you can see all of these things working. When you walk into an organisation, and you know, it would be no surprise anyway if people have read about the college, that the biggest issue within the college is systems and procedures. And of course, it wasn't a full senior leadership team. There were, you know, interims in place at all levels. So it was very disjointed. I mean, I started the year without a VP finance, doing that whole role across the organisation, without an estates manager. I mean, it was just, you know, going into a COVID situation where you're just thinking, cracky, I'm responsible for everybody's safety and well-being on an operational level, let alone at a strategic level. I mean, that was just, I mean, I was working 70 hours a week. Up until recently, that's the hours I've been working, just because there's just so many things. And then, you know, if you're going into an organisation where there are financial difficulties, it's getting your head around that. And then it was trying to secure someone in that finance role that could take the weight of that burden. I think, you know, when you've got monthly meetings with the FE Commissioner, you've got monthly meetings with the bank that, you know, I'd never experienced before. And that first meeting was a really tough meeting.
How do you prepare for that specifically then?
Do you know, it's interesting because 3 or 4 meetings, I think the first meeting I was shell-shocked, because it was really clear about the position of the bank and the position of the college, and this is where you could find yourselves. And that was just totally new to me. And then, you know, as we've moved on and we've improved things massively, we've improved the finances, and, you know, people can see a huge difference in what we're doing and can see pace. And I think that's important, that, you know, if you're in an organisation where you've got to effect change, it has to be quick. A lot has to be done in that first year, and it is relentless to be able to do that. And the FE commissioners team and also the bank recognise that, and also the SFA, because you've got monthly meetings with them, of course. So there's so many people that are monitoring your progress on a regular basis that you just have to be so on top of things. And again, if you haven't got that team around you that are doing this for you, you have to do most of that yourself. So that's been a massive learning curve for me. Just to sort of all of those balls.
Have you looked externally? Where are you getting the support from externally of the college as well? Is that important to have a network?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I didn't have a HR manager either, so that was something else. So, I was dealing with all sorts of things, and I knew that I could pick the phone up to the team at Newcastle, and I could ring the HR director and say, right, I've got a case here now. I was going to go to court. And what would you do? And get advice. I've rang VP Finance at NSCG and said, right, let me just run this by you, Craig. And so those people have been fantastic. But I think also the people that I am meeting with regularly, the SFA, the FE Commissioner, they have been incredibly supportive. And they are really backing the college and me, and they want to see this college be successful. And I think when you've got their support and they know the challenges that you're actually facing, that they know it's not an easy job, I think that's been, a really positive for me to know that everybody wants you to succeed. There's nobody out there thinking, oh yeah, come on, let's see this fail. So I think that gives you the confidence to think, yeah, that's great. We'll do it. We'll get there. And it's that belief that you have to spread with staff as well, right? Right from day one. And I think one of the things I've always done is being honest with the staff. Amidst the pandemic, bearing in mind staff didn't come back to work until the 17th of August. Within 3 days, I'd met every single member of staff, and that week was exhausting. I couldn't see them in auditoriums, which I would have done, wholesale, one on one side, one on the other. Yep. I was literally doing so many in a room, hour after hour. One day I did 6 hours, one after the other, full hours of, this is a journey to outstanding. This is the position of Coventry. This is what we need to do, and this is where we're going to be.
And what's been the response? What's been the response to that style of
really positive?
Optimism?
Yeah, really positive. And I send out a weekly comms, but people are like, when's the next time you're going to talk to us about where we are now and where we're up to? And clearly I'm going to do it first week after Christmas, because there are lots of changes afoot really that we need to action. Some of them that are going to be incredibly challenging to enable us to move forward as a college. So, we're going to be having those conversations moving forward.
So on moving forward, how optimistic are you about the college's future and its place in the city and the West Midlands region?
I think very optimistic. I think, Coventry deserves to have a college that is a good, successful college. And, you talk about outstanding and we all want to be Ofsted outstanding, but actually we always used to say at NSCG, if we can be good in everything that we deliver, consistently good in everything that we deliver, then that's a really pretty good place to be in, I would think. And, we're trying to fix systems, we're trying to fix process, we're trying to get people in place where we've got gaps. I'm doing a management training program. I train every manager in the college. Every 3 weeks we have a session on a Thursday morning, because everybody in the organisation needs clarity about their role and how they're then supported in that role and where the expectation is. And when you start to get that level of consistency and that starts to build throughout the organisation and those people grow in confidence and capability, that's when you start to see things happening. So I always knew that this year, from my experience with Stafford really, that year one has to be the most painful year because there's so much change, and you're battling unions, you're battling just people that are saying, we've had so much change. How is your change going to be any better than what we've had before? And that's really important in a college that's had whatever it was, 5 principals in 4 years. You're just somebody else who's going to come and start changing things and then walk away in their mind. So I think convincing people that I'm here to stay as well is really, really important. And we've put lots of things in place about valuing staff. There's a shout out to staff every week for people going above and beyond. We've done long service awards. The staff here have been here 39 years and never been recognised for being in an organisation that long. You know, we've got birthday cards out for staff. We've got outstanding achievement for qualifications, because there's some really good provision. And in every college that's struggling, there's some outstanding provision, and you need to sort of recognise that, really. So it's about trying to sort of value that and bring everybody together moving forward. And I would say that, you know, 99.9% of people at this college want that to happen. And, you know, I did say to the staff, if I don't believe that every one of you wants this college to be a good college, then I've just made the worst career move of my life. So, and you know, people value that. I sent letters out to staff for having 100% attendance last year. And people sent me emails saying, oh my God, you've just made my weekend. I'm going home to celebrate.
Fantastic.
And they're just tiny little things that you can do that need to be done to try and bring the college community together, really, to bring them together as one.
What about in the wider community though? So, you know, Coventry, City of Culture, where does the college sit in the city, and where does it sit in the wider region?
Yeah, well, we are a key partner in City of Culture, so we're heavily involved in all of the activities in terms of that. I think the job has been doubly difficult, because not only am I trying to do things operationally because I haven't had the staff and there's nobody else to do it, basically, but you've still got to meet all of those external people. So we've had local MPs here. I'm on the Coventry Champions. Then there's College West Midlands Association, there's this AFC Principals Network, there's the West Midlands Combined Authority, there's the local authority, there's this secondary schools heads network. I'm on all of those as well.
70 hours a week, Carol.
It's just so, and some of those things are new, you know, being in a devolved authority like Combined West Midlands Authority, that was totally new to me. Unfortunately, I have got somebody at the college, an assistant principal in business growth, who knows that inside out. So she's been absolutely fantastic in sort of steering me in terms of how you know what we do and how that works, sort of thing. So so there have been some steep learning curves in there. There's a lot of things, obviously, that I know and that I can do with my eyes shut, but it's picking up all of these new things, and at the moment it's balancing all the balls because we haven't got everybody in place yet. So still challenging. And you know, I'll be honest, there are days when I've gone back up north and gone to my husband, I can't do this, you know, and he said, just sit back and look at what you've done in the last 3 months, you know. And the external people say that, the SFA, the bank, you know, they've all said, look at what you've achieved in 3 months, and you're saying, yeah, actually we have, but you just have to realize that you can't change everything instantly.
So that's really important, actually, because lots of people at every level of every size of organisation talk about imposter syndrome, self-doubt. What advice would you give people who are not as brave enough to come out and say, there are moments when I think, goodness me, what's next?
Yeah, I think you just got to be honest, haven't you? You know, I mean, I'm the way I am all of the time. I would say people don't see a difference in me at any time of any day, and I think that works for people. That's what people expect, but I don't have to fake that. That's just how I am, really. So, and I think I'm honest. If I mean, I went away at the weekend and I literally slept for an entire weekend in the lake because I've had 4.5 months of, you know, 70-hour week. I'm just exhausted. But you know, back this week now, revitalized, so I won't be totally useless over Christmas. But you can keep going for so long, and then you do just have a moment when you think, oh crikey. And you know, it's like you know, it's a college that's in, you know, in restructured and recovery. So there's bound to be, every stone you turn, you see something that needs changing or something that's not quite right. Or so I think it depends what college you're going into and what the challenges are.
Okay.
And you know, my old principal said to me, the best thing you can do, Carol, is to get an amazing team around you.
All of this happened because of COVID-19, and we know it's affecting education, the education sector, hugely. How do you think this is going to impact on Coventry College, and what are the opportunities to seize, but also the risks, do you think?
Yeah, I think the biggest risks are the gaps in learning. You know, we have students on, as every college does, on a certain number of hours. You can't deliver over and above that. We don't have the funding to do that. We don't have the capacity to do that in terms of staffing. And we're expected to really backfill 5 months of missed learning, which is absolutely impossible. So I think, you know, staff are working incredibly hard to bridge that gap of starting a new qualification, but actually just in terms of basic, you know, literacy and numeracy, that entire gap of how you're bringing that back into the curriculum is really, really challenging. I think balancing that with different people's fears and worries about, you know, and actually we've done really, really well. We've had some of the lowest numbers in terms of positive cases for staff or students. So, you know, we've done really well in terms of the West Midlands as a whole. But you've still got that challenge of people isolating, people doing some remote, people not, you know, coming in, students, you know, taking advantage of the fact that, oh, shall we isolate? You know, and you're going through all of those sorts of challenges that you do. And I think the other thing that students massively miss out on is that whole college experience and enrichment. You know, all social areas are shut. They're not doing all of those additional things. There's no trips and visits. So they're actually getting a very narrow course, really. And that's not what we want for young people. So I think there's a massive impact in terms of students and their experience. And in terms of staff, I think it's pushed staff to be incredibly innovative. This college has certainly gone. We had an Ofsted visit 2 weeks ago, looking at the remote delivery, and we were honest with Ofsted and said, you know, at the start of the pandemic, staff didn't even have laptops. Well, they might have had a laptop, but it didn't have a camera, or it didn't have a speaker. So where they are now, from where they were last March, is streets ahead, and staff are innovatively delivering a mix of blended learning. And you know, the local authority here, they talk about COVID keeps. And we talk about that now as well. And when we're planning the curriculum for next year, certainly for second year level 3s or higher education or some adult programmes, we would be hoping to keep a level of remote delivery where it works. Because I think you've always got to bear in mind, you know, you could do a survey tomorrow and 56% of students might be accessing remote delivery, but 60% of them are doing it by phone, which isn't suitable really and isn't sort of acceptable. So I think there are some things to learn. We've got the new challenges coming, which the white paper might bring, of course, which is talking about, you know, collaboration and specialisation across colleges and how that's going to work and how that's going to impact on colleges and your provision, your size, what you can offer, what you can't offer. So I think there are many more challenges to come. But at the moment, my focus is on just sort of getting this college where it needs to be, where we can provide consistent, high quality teaching and learning to every student that comes to us.
Final question is, and it's for all those aspirant principal and chief execs of CEOs of any organisation, what advice would you give to them in terms of how they can best prepare to take on the ultimate senior role?
I think today, with everything that it involves and all the challenges that you have, I think, and it's probably a bit of a cliche, but I think you have to be incredibly resilient. I mean, I climbed Kilimanjaro last year. I was ill on the first day. I spent 9 days without any food, without hardly any sleep, and still summited. And I thought I was resilient then, but crikey, nothing prepared me for this. Okay. I have to say, you have to be resilient. And you know, you do have support networks. The chair's fantastic here, and you know, they're always asking if I need anything, if they can support me, and so you've got that network. But it's about how you cope as an individual and how you just keep stepping over the next hurdle and coming to the next one and going, right, okay, we've done that one, let's move on, and just continuously doing that and not letting it get you down, really. So it is about building up that resilience and knowing before you embark on a job like this that you're going to be able to do it, I would say.
So 2021 is going to be a good year, yes?
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Carol, thank you so much for your time. Don't say that. Don't say that. Well, thank you so much for your time. And on behalf of Peridot Partners, may I wish you, your family and everyone, the staff and students at Coventry College, a very merry and restful Christmas and a happy New Year.
And the same to you. Thank you.